You're listening to the YouTube channel Fox Spot, promoting various charities, community groups and individuals from all parts of Leicestershire. Welcome to the Spotlight Show.
Yes, Pete Degnan here. I'm talking with Tor Berry, who is a volunteer. In fact, she's head volunteer at Headway in Leicester, just up the road from us, just up by the General Hospital there. Welcome to the Spotlight Show, Tor.
Thank you for having me, Pete.
You're very well. Now, we're going to first of all talk about the work you do at Headway. Basically, it's to do with people who suffer from brain injuries, but it's not a service where you sort of let people become dependent. They sort of help people find their feet and move forward. Would that be right?
Yeah, we've got various service offerings, but absolutely with the idea of reaching personal goals in mind. Brain injury is very complicated. It doesn't affect any one individual in the same way. So we have one service line, which is called Community Outreach. And in most cases, that is to support people after a brain injury, probably quite early on in the diagnosis, to get back to work, to navigate paperwork, to perhaps get their driving license back, to try and get back to a realistic sort of how they were before their brain injury. But in some cases, that's unlikely and there's a new normal. And those people will often be with us at the day service a couple of days a week.
Yeah.
Regaining all sorts of skills. It's still all very positive. They're perhaps not going to go back to the old them.
Yeah. So is it a case that people, obviously with a brain injury, they have to adapt? I mean, obviously there's adaptation, but, once I imagine accepting the fact they're not going to go back to their own normal self is the hardest part to accept.
That's one of the biggest challenges. I do think this is true sort of all over society at the moment in terms of mental health, but the mental health, and perhaps he had a manual job or he certainly worked and probably worked physically. That chap now is unlike himself or his family again. There are all sorts of things he might not be able to do for himself independently or autonomously. So that's a injury. It's accepting that you might have that injury for the rest of your life and how that impacts every relationship in your life. That could be your wife, it could be your parents, it could be your children, it could be anybody relying on you. It could be your colleagues, your friends. So your whole identity, aside from your physical injuries, is hugely affected. And there is very limited provision in this country anyway to support that.
Yeah, I mean, you as Headway Leicester covers the city, the county, and goes into Rutland as well.
Yeah, Leicestershire, Leicester City, and Rutland. So both counties and Leicester City. Yeah.
Right. I mean, the advantage of this show is that it's on YouTube, we cover the whole county. We can make it available to every corner of the county, from Ashby to Market Harborough, from Oakham over to Market Bosworth, and all points in between as well. So, it's something that I'm extremely proud of, and it is becoming very popular. That's a word for it, popular.
Yeah. It does really matter, particularly in the counties, because in another role I work in South Leicestershire, and apart from the fact that rural isolation is a definite thing, it's an actual issue for society, often we rely too heavily on the infrastructure within the city, and many people just don't want to access that. So it's great that your show's across both counties, and it's really important for us as an organisation.
I imagine for those people that live in rural communities, the additional problem is that, at one stage they would have been able to get the car out to travel anywhere. Now, due to a brain injury, they had to rely on public transport, which isn't always there.
No, again, the infrastructure, certainly if you were in parts of Rutland or parts of the South Leicestershire, I mean, there are great voluntary services like Fox Connect. I don't know if you're aware of those. There are great organisations that will come and pick you up and kind of take you somewhere else. But it's difficult to get places. And also, there's a lot of misunderstanding around, if you can afford to live in the country, you must be in one socio-economic bracket. But the truth is, I visit people in these homes and they are freezing. They're in these lovely houses, but they're cold, or they're hungry, or they're both. So there is, there are examples of what we would categorize as poverty, and there's plenty of vulnerability across the county.
Yeah. Right. We're going to come back to the work you do at Headway. I just want to take you back. It's only a matter of what, 2, 3 weeks ago, you were letting your hair down on the dance floor, your big fundraiser. How did that go?
Yeah, it was great. Thank you, Pete. We have an annual fundraiser, which we call a ball for no discernible reason because there is no ballroom or dancing, but that is what we refer to it as. And we usually have a soft target of about £5,000 or £6,000, which is an important amount to raise. But it's kind of much more about celebrating the work we've done over the year. It gives the members an opportunity to showcase their journey. So this year, a chap called Chris Hollick talked about how, he was bedridden for the better part of a year, and just this year has flown to Australia, New Zealand, forgive me, flown to New Zealand by with his friends. So it was this amazing journey, and he got the opportunity and found the courage to tell 192 guests about that. It's also about connecting with businesses and then getting to meet the members in person, and it's just a really buoyant, moving, important night. And then yes, we do raise some money, which is really important, and we had some great prizes from Muzzy Is It this year, from Kasabian, who have supported us for years. And those prizes are largely what generate the money. So this year's total is just a little over 7,000 right now, with money still coming in. Really pleased.
In this day and age, unfortunately, there's a need for charities such as yourself. But funding pots are getting less and less and scarcer and more competitive, all the rest of it. So something like this you can do yourself in-house is additionally rewarding.
And what's also important about it, I think, is that you build some resilience and you encourage other people in the room to fundraise for you. We've kind of got to change the culture of fundraising. And just as a note of clarity at the top of the call, although I do volunteer for Headway and I volunteer for lots of organisations, actually about 30 as a fundraiser, I do also have a paid role at Headway, just for clarity.
Right.
So, and I am a paid fundraiser here, although as I said, I'm a voluntary fundraiser elsewhere. But we need to change the culture that fundraising is something actually that anyone could do. And the more people that are mobilized to do it and are thinking about it or engage with it, and it really doesn't matter if it's £50, Pete, I can make £50 go so far. So if there's a local WI group watching this and they're looking for fundraising ideas and they want me to come and tell them how to do it, whatever it might be. But one of the great things about the night is mobilizing the 2026 fundraisers, the next year's group. So that's great.
Right, that's just about the ideal opportunity to give out some contact details. So if people have got ideas, if they want to join your happy band of fundraisers, how can they contact you, Tor?
So they can get in touch with me directly at Headway Leicester. Just Google Headway Leicester. My number's all over the website. The landline here is 0116 273 9763. You can email me directly. Anybody here would give you my mobile number, but it's 07949 318 629. Feel free to WhatsApp me. You can volunteer for all sorts here. I can use you for anything. Gardening. I'm desperate for a retired woodwork teacher or someone's got time to do woodwork. It could be admin, it could be in the day service, you could be a volunteer fundraiser. If you have got the heart to give me your time, well, and all your money, or get involved in any way, feel free to get in touch with me.
Right. Just a word of advice to anyone who does try to get in contact with. If you're going to try to use Tor's mobile number, can I suggest that you actually send her a text? Because to be honest, the amount of times I've tried to phone you, it doesn't work, does it? But if I send you a text, no. I get a reply pretty quickly.
You will get a quick reply to WhatsApp. That is definitely true. I know I sound like one of those annoying modern people that says she's the busiest woman on the planet, but I do actually have 4 paid roles at the moment. And last year I did volunteer for just over 30 groups. So my voicemail is always full. But if you WhatsApp me, a quick reply.
Yeah, just a word of advice there. But I mean, later I said, the scope of the activities that you undertake at Headway, range from gardening, which I understand is very popular, cooking, woodwork, different things. I've seen some lovely pictures of people who have gone and made bird tables, etc., which might sound rather simplistic, but with someone with a brain injury, it's an achievement, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And actually, even if things are simple, I mean, look, everyone likes to contribute, to create, to finish. I mean, humans are designed to finish, aren't they? And the
Yeah.
opportunities in adult life to finish anything are pretty minimal. I mean, it's Groundhog Day for most of us, with or without a brain injury. So I think coming to the day service and having an opportunity to start a project and see it through to completion, and then perhaps if you make something in woodwork and I go on and sell it for you, it feels like not only have you really achieved something, but then you've also given back. And within those tasks, there's a lot of recovery of skills as well. Fine motor skills, gross motor skills, your confidence that you can do something, and also trying something new. I mean, we get the opportunity often to try new things in life, and it's really important here in the day service to just keep offering points of newness.
No, I
So
do know that every so often you actually take your members down to the local pub and they have a drink and a meal, and you've got other events coming up next year, haven't you?
yeah, so we do all sorts. We're getting much more active in the community post-COVID and getting a bit of funding. We do all sorts. Last week we were at Cosmic Golf. I don't know if you've been there, but it's awesome. That's at what's it called? Leicester Golf Course, backing onto the race course. The week before that we were at Redgate Farm. We've been to the Thurleston Air Gun and Archery, which guys just loved. One of them went off, bought his own bow and arrow. Yeah, he was just mad on it. We've got hubs around the county. We do fry ups, Christmas lunches, bowling. To be honest, it's all very what we call person led or member led. So if somebody says they want to do something, literally 10 minutes ago, James downstairs said to me that he wanted to play snooker. Could I get in touch with a snooker club in Wigston? And so, I've got to go on and make that happen. But if anybody would like to try something or do something, we will do our best to facilitate it for them, because often they will still need our support in the community, the support of a one-to-one worker or just the support of a member of staff or a couple of volunteers. But either way, and perhaps I help to coordinate it as well. So yeah,
I
we
mean,
do.
from your members' point of view, it must improve their ability to concentrate, improve their self-confidence, self-awareness, and all the rest of it as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a clinician, so I can't really sit here and tell you about cognitive
Oh, no,
improvement,
no, no.
although that is honestly noticeable. But the amount of training days my boss has sent me on and corporate things I've attended and conferences, and I tell you the one thing that shines out, whichever headway you're talking about, anywhere you go, is when somebody gets up and tells you about their brain injury and how
Yeah,
headway made them feel like themselves and feel happy, feel confident, and they often talk about friendship. I mean, you can't really train anyone to make a friend, and the opportunity to go somewhere where you might make a friend who's got the same or similar experiences to you, you can't
yeah.
put a price on that.
But I
So
mean,
that's the main thing that comes out of it.
that's the beauty of your members being together, being able to share, or their family members being able to share insights into it's realistically no one can understand surely a brain injury unless you've experienced a brain injury.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably one of the hardest things about the sector, if you like, that there are lots of people working in it who've got lots and lots of experience, but there aren't many people. I didn't know anything about brain injury when I came here. I mean, it's
Right.
not particularly commonly understood, is it?
No, no, no. Right. Now, we know you wear many hats at different organisations, but we want going to move on now to another hat that you wear because you are an NHS Community Ambassador. We know that that's to do with diversity and community diversity, having access to clinical research, etc.
Yeah, it's probably even a bit more important than that. The point of the Community Ambassador Program, its loftiest aim, its biggest aim, is to tackle the health inequity that exists across the nation, but specifically in Leicestershire, Leicester, and Rutland. So, following COVID, it was pretty readily understood that something like the pulse oximeter machine did not
Yeah.
work as effectively on people who are not white.
Yes.
And there are
Yes.
lots of other examples, but that was one that was sort of understood by a lot of people, even non-clinical people. So the idea is to try and reach out to either vulnerable or marginalized communities that aren't very well represented within the NHS, or perhaps they don't quite trust the NHS, perhaps for whatever reason they perhaps won't get their children vaccinated. It could be across all sorts of areas of healthcare and medicine, but the idea is to try and improve health outcomes for that community and to work in a kind of ambassadorial way to do that with
Yeah.
quite mixed results. But yeah, early days.
Yeah, I mean, I have in the past spoken to and done some work with charities such as Oracle, which are primarily into neck and head cancer for the Caribbean community, and the resilience there of people from the Caribbean to actually trust doctors. It is the problem. And I imagine
it's very complicated.
that's something that, I mean, to be honest, no disrespect. I sort of take, oh, I'm going to the doctor. Okay, I'm off to the doctor. But for other people, it is a stressful experience.
Yeah, I think it's not just trusting the doctor. There are cultural things, there are religious things. There's
Yes.
also the fact that, the only way we're really going to tackle health inequity beyond engagement is things like research. Let's try and
Yes.
understand why you are significantly more likely to experience a certain cardiovascular condition based on an ethnicity. I think it's a tall order to ask people who already perhaps don't trust the NHS to then participate in a research project where they perhaps don't feel, research isn't the most transparent process. It isn't the most immediate process. You often need a bit of incentivization. So, yeah, it's a complicated journey, I think, with many, many, many steps. And I think like any other relationship you're building up in life, it's probably going to take longer than the NHS wants it to, but it
Yeah.
absolutely needs to be done.
Yeah, I'm going to say this comes down to partly the fact that Leicester has such a diverse population,
Yeah.
such different cultural and religious groupings who all have their own identity and their own ideas.
Yeah, I think it's something to be really proud of if you live here and you're from here. I think at the last sort of tally, it's 46 different faiths or religious groups, over 70 language or dialects spoken around. We know that Leicester City is just over, it is a white minority city, although I
Yes.
dislike that intensely. We know that's not representative in the county, I might add, but it's still a very multicultural society. So there's an awful lot of things to consider and lots of different points of view, lots of different worldviews, lots of different challenges. There's challenges again in different groups in gender. There's challenges in age group because they perhaps, we might have one view of child's health and they might, a different group might have a different view.
Yeah.
And so to some extent, one of the challenges of the project is making sure the ambassadors receive the right cultural training and that we're
Yes.
talking the right people. So that's one of the reasons we tried to do the video. The
Yeah. I must admit, we do carry the video on our YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Or rest it, and to be honest, I fully support the idea. I will turn around and brag a little bit. I do know Professor Faruqi. I've known him for 30 years. Brilliant guy. I really like him.
Brilliant. He's extremely credible. And when the professor, this is what's so interesting about human behaviors and the trust proposition. When we've got time to get the professor out to do a talk, anyone in that room would sign up to research because he is a person who feels very credible and trustworthy. I'm not saying there are others that don't. I'm just saying it's fantastic that he's kind of the face and the leader of this ambassador program.
I must be honest,
Yeah.
and seeing how it's just you, me, and a few thousand people listening, I'm hopeful of being able to get Professor Faruqi to come onto the show and discuss diabetes. It's something I suffer with myself,
Yeah.
so therefore I've got first-hand experience, and the journey and the self-awareness as well. I think that we all live in a learning curve when it comes to medical information.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a different picture than when we were children, isn't it? Health generally
Yes.
now. I think really two things have to happen for the NHS to realise their ideas around community medicine. And by that I mean us all taking better care of each other and better care of ourselves. They need to get to know their communities better, but equally, we need to play a more active participatory role in our healthcare. So rather than wait to get ill, do whatever we can to prevent getting ill. And I think,
Yes.
look, things have changed. We know about processed foods and the ultra processed foods, and we know about smoking, and we know about drinking. And we know about mental health, although mental health broadly declines. And we're starting to understand common symptoms like fatigue. the knowledge is out there. Whether there's a huge amount of practice for us all to live better, I don't know, but that is one of the things that absolutely has to happen. As the population increases and we live longer, we have got to try and take different attitudes ourselves. So it's kind of a relationship, really, a two-way relationship.
Do you think that health should be a subject that is taught at schools?
Yeah, so they have a broad subject now called life skills in school, which it won't surprise you to know I teach as a volunteer. Um, and yeah, various things are brought up in that, but absolutely taking care of yourself should be a learning module at school. Fundamental skills in order to do that should be taught. And that could be anything from what we might call financial literacy to digital safety to nutrition to your mental health, to positive friendships, talking language kits, toolkits, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, we definitely need to equip young people better so they're not trying to learn these things in the middle of their midlife crisis.
Yeah,
Right.
I totally agree with you. And to be honest, a support that Foxpot or myself can be, vibe show and that, then we're more than willing to do our bit. At the end of the
Thank you.
day, it's a people's health, which, to be honest, it should be taken lightly.
No, I mean, again, some of this comes back down to values, doesn't it? We historically haven't really valued taking care of ourselves. There's always a sort of mentality in most families that, your children's health and happiness is foremost. But it's a little bit like the oxygen mask thing on the plane. You do need to take care of yourself because it's intrinsically linked to your children's well-being. So, we need a lot more sort of interconnectedness around health and really thinking about the impact it has on every aspect of our lives, how we earn, how mentally well we are, how well we can raise our children, how well we can take care of others, how we hope, how we dream, all sorts of things. So it's much more important than we previously understood, I think.
Yeah, to be honest, for me, I think one thing that maybe should be examined is the availability of interpreters.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting and kind of LLR specific point. I can say, in reference to the Community Ambassador program, a lot of lengths have been taken to produce things in various languages and with the support of interpreters. So there's lots of research roadshows that go on where there are interpreters around. But yeah, that's a really interesting point.
No, but I mean, I do know people have moaned the fact that when they receive letters from hospitals or some GPs and that, it appears in about 8 or 10 different languages.
Mm.
But when people think about who lives in that community, maybe it's understandable why it appears in so many languages.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing that it appears in many languages. And I think it's just one of those things that we should be, it's not really about being tolerant. I mean, that's not really acceptable. What we need to try and understand is just how blessed we all are to live in it's such a unique city and county across the UK, I think. I mean, it's almost, I mean, globally, it's quite well recognized. I don't know if you know that, but like De Montfort is one of the only
Yes,
universities that
yeah.
teach peace. We've got lots of meaningful work about educating us on peace and things like that going on. So I actually think the diversity of LLR, I know it's complicated, and yes, it might be a bit tedious to receive medical information in multiple languages, but you only have to discern your own language. And it's an amazing thing. It's potentially a world leading example
Right,
if we get it
we're
right.
running out of time, Tom, but I just want
Yeah.
to ask you one final question, and that is the fact that do you think that realistically the problem, half the problem is the cost of prescriptions? I mean, I know that's a government problem, but it is a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, again, I can't really comment on it professionally, but my personal view would be by and large, yes, prescriptions cost, but by and large, the NHS standard for onboarding a medicine, wherever it was developed in the world, and making sure it's affordable is pretty high. I mean, the UK does not suffer particularly from a big pharma problem yet.
Yeah.
We might do. And we do have lots of caveats for accessing prescriptions free. But yeah, I mean, again, it's like everything else, it has gone up. I think it's safe to say, Pete, that it's quite difficult to afford life in the UK
Yeah.
at the moment.